Ah, yes, we're back at it, Patriots fans. Mock Draft 2.0. You see this logo? We're getting closer to the top selection if you're a Patriots fan as the losses keep stacking. So we're going to do a mock draft on today's video. So stick with us here. 6-round mock draft on today's show. And if you want more Patriots draft content on the channel, and why wouldn't you? It's time to look ahead to the future. Hit that subscribe button. Myself, Rolly, we got you covered here on Patriots Today. So do not miss out here on Patriots Today by Chat Sports. All right, so the Patriots currently have the number 3 overall pick. Number 1 overall to the Chicago Bears was Caleb Williams with the number 1 selection, the USC quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Arizona Cardinals, who could keep Kyler Murray and not draft a quarterback. They go with MHJ. And then with the number 3 selection, the New England Patriots select Drake Maye, the North Carolina quarterback. And quite frankly, if you get the number 3 pick, this is the dream scenario. And I do think it's possible to get Maye or Williams, I suppose, at number 3 if the Cardinals are the team that's picking number 2, because I still think they might keep Kyler Murray. And if they do and they don't trade down, then drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. is what would make most sense for Arizona. Drake Maye has put together 2 fantastic seasons in Chapel Hill, combining for right at 8,000 passing yards. The volume stats and even completion percentage, it's a little down this year, but that team just kind of fell apart down the stretch. And I don't have too concerns about Drake Maye. They had some drop issues. Offensive line play was a problem. And quite frankly, the same could be true about Caleb Williams, where both their numbers went down this season. But I think both are excellent prospects. And I think Drake Maye is just a guy that you should want to have in New England. They need a quarterback that's got all the tools. And that's the thing about Mac Jones, Rolly. Even for the Mac defenders out there, if there's any left, one thing he never had coming out of Alabama was elite physical talent. Drake Maye is bigger. Drake Maye has a stronger arm. Drake Maye is more mobile. Take the in-between-the-ear stuff out of it. There was always going to be a ceiling with Mac Jones due to his physical limitations.
No, yeah, and in today's NFL, you look at the top-tier quarterbacks, right? You're looking at Josh Allen, who's massive with a cannon and can move. Patrick Mahomes, same thing, right? Lamar Jackson, super athletic. Guys like Justin Herbert, who Drake Maye's been compared to. Maye's listed at 6'4", 230. I think he might be a little bit taller than that. I think he's 6'5". The weight's there. He maybe could even put on some weight to add to his frame because he is so tall. Drake Maye is the prototypical quarterback coming out of college right now that's got a rocket arm, really good size, and if it's all figured out between the head and the footwork, which you trust your coaching staff, whoever it may be, to get that stuff ironed out perfectly, this guy's got all the tools to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. And I know that might be a lot of hype, but I think that's realistic, Harrison.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't reach there, I mean, I still think you're looking at a guy that, unless he completely busts, probably becomes a top 15, top 20 quarterback, if not better. I mean, if you're picking in the top 3, you're shooting for a top 5, top 10 quarterback in the league. Top of the league is tough right now with how good these quarterbacks are, but he's got the skill set. I mean, he gets Justin Herbert comparisons now. Justin Herbert is having some issues with winning games down the stretch of these games, but if you told me Drake Maye would have become Justin Herbert, I think we would all sign up for that. In New England, just get a little better coaching around him, and hopefully you get better results than what Herbert's gotten out in L.A. I think Drake Maye's the full package. I think he's got what it takes to be the leader of a franchise as well. And look, fair or not to Mac Jones, being the guy who replaced Tom Brady was tough. Drake Maye doesn't have to face that. He's not the guy replacing Tom Brady. He's the guy replacing the guy who replaced Tom Brady. So as long as he's an upgrade there, you're going to have goodwill with the fan base, at least in the short term, and hopefully in the long term, you keep improving, become a franchise guy, and we all feel good about that. Now, do you want the Patriots to draft North Carolina quarterback Drake Maye? Type Y for yes, you do. Type N for no, you don't. If he's sitting there and you have the number 3 pick, I think it's a home run. I would absolutely go get him. Now, with the second pick for the Patriots in this mock draft 2.0, round 2, number 35 overall, Well, you need to get Drake May some weapons or some offensive line help. In this case, we did go with a weapon. Wide receiver Jalen Polk out of Washington. Rome Odunze is the guy who's going to get all the attention, as he could be a top 10 pick out of Washington. But Jalen Polk is terrific as well, and the Patriots need playmakers. I like what we've seen out of Demario Douglas, but Jalen Polk, maybe he's not – I don't think he's a number 1 in the NFL, but I think he can be a number 2. He's got really good speed. You look at the yards per catch there at over 17. He's a big-time playmaker at the University of Washington, and I think you bring in a guy like him in here. Maybe you sign someone in free agency as well, and you can kind of get this wide receiver cooking pretty quickly. Now, I don't expect this group to go from one of the worst in the league to one of the best overnight, but can it be a top 20 unit next year? I think that's possible if you allocate the right resources. Obviously, get the proper quarterback like a Drake May in there as well. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I like Jalen Polk. Be sure to watch him this Friday night in the Pac-12 championship game as Washington takes on Oregon. Speaking of which, you want to spice up your college football championship weekend game viewing? PrizePicks, Daily Fantasy Sports. I've got a 5-player entry. PrizePicks 2 to 6 player entries are what you can do on your picks. And I thought, you know what? Championship week is here. Let's spice it up with a little college football. And Oklahoma State quarterback Alan Bowman, I'm going less than 245.5 passing yards. They run the football a lot, so I think they're going to try to do that. Give me the less on that number. Deacon Hill, the Iowa quarterback, I know, it's crazy, 104.5 passing yards. I'm still going less. Iowa is horrific on offense, so I'm going to go less against Michigan there. Bo Nix, I think he's going to have a big game against Washington. Give me the more on his passing yards. I'm going to go less on Michael Penix, and then more on Jalen Milroe. There's way more statistical categories you could do. Rushing yards, you could do pass touchdowns, receiving plus rushing touchdowns. You can cross over sports with the NFL, NHL, NBA, college basketball, whatever it is. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS. If you do a 6-player entry, you can win up to 25 times your money. That code CLNS will get you a deposit match up to $100. Round 3 we go. Rod Moore, the safety out of Michigan. Round 3, pick number 67. Got that key interception late against Ohio State. Undercut a route from Marvin Harrison Jr. on a ball that kind of fluttered because Buckeyes quarterback Kyle McCord got hit. But talk about a big-time play and a big-time moment to seal that one. Gives you insurance if Kyle Duggar leaves, number 1. I think Rod Moore definitely provides that. He can play both safety spots, although I like him more as a free safety. He's definitely a guy who can cover. He's good, man. He's good. He can identify what quarterbacks are doing. We saw it on that game-winning play. He's a willing tackler as well. One of the best safeties in this class. So if he's sitting there in the 3rd round, I definitely like the value. And then we're going to trade. We didn't do any trades in our first mock draft, but we're going to do one here. The New England Patriots trade back up into the 3rd round with the Kansas City Chiefs. They trade 103 and 140 to KC for 92, move up 11 spots. And yes, we're going to double dip at wide receiver. And why not Roley? Why not pair up Drake May and his best buddy at North Carolina, teammate Tez Walker, the wide receiver who was suspended for the first 4 games of the year due to BS NCAA rulings. And hey, these guys already got chemistry. You need weapons on the outside anyway. If that's possible, I would absolutely be interested.
Listen, it's a double dip in the Chapel Hill, and I know that might scare some people, but hey, May and Tez Walker already have chemistry. They're already good friends, so it would be very easy for those two to transition into Foxborough and get things cooking early on. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why is Tez Walker in the 3rd round? Well, he could still work on some of his route running abilities, but he is an absolute burner, Harrison. He is the main vertical threat for the Tar Heels this past season, and it felt like when May needed a completion on 3rd down, he looked for 2 people. If you didn't know, I'm a North Carolina fan, so I watched a lot of them. He looked for Bryson Nesbitt, the tight end, and he looked for his guy, Tez Walker. And he only played in 8 games this year, as you mentioned, because of that suspension or ineligibility, but in 8 games, he put up great numbers. Only 41 catches, but damn near 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, and like Jalen Polk, a big-time threat down the stretch with an average catch of 17 yards per game. He can stretch the field the Patriots are trying to do that with Tyquan Thornton, the second-round pick from a couple of years ago. Maybe Tez Walker can fill that role for New England since Thornton stinks.
Yeah, I mean, 699 in 8 games. That's close to 100 yards a game. You're looking at about 90 yards per game there. So he was an explosive player, 17 yards per catch, like you mentioned, and we've seen a few instances of this. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow wanted to team up with them. So to have a guy already with chemistry with your potential franchise quarterback makes a lot of sense if the value is there. And I think in the third round, it absolutely is. What is the Patriots' biggest need right now? I still think it's got to be quarterback, but O-line, receiver, I think just offense in general is obviously where you need to add some talent, which, hey, we've gone 3 offensive players and 1 defensive player. So no 4th or 5th round pick because we traded those to go get Tez Walker. How about Brandon Coleman in the 6th round to wrap up this mock draft, a player I'm familiar with? Rolly said he's a Tar Heel fan. Well, I'm a TCU fan and alum, and Brandon Coleman's a good player. Now, full disclosure, he did not play as well this year. They kind of moved him around. He played left tackle last year. This year they started him at guard and then had to kick him back outside due to injuries. He didn't grade out as well, but that offensive line as a whole had to replace 3 starters, and the interior was a mess this year, which is why they wanted him to play guard. Selfless teammate kicking inside like that. He can play 4 positions on the offensive line. He can play left tackle, he can play left guard, he can play right tackle, he can play right guard. I don't think he's a starter right away in the NFL, but I think day 3 developmental guy who can be a number 6, number 7 offensive lineman as a rookie and perhaps develop into a starter down the road, I think is definitely valuable here, Rolly. And not only do the Patriots need help on that starting O-line, they need some depth as well, as most teams do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and the Patriots drafted a couple offensive linemen late in last year's draft, and now Sidy Sow is actually starting. But the truth of the matter is, with the Patriots' question marks at offensive line, with Trent Brown and Mike Onwenu don't really know what their futures are in New England, you need to get a guy that can maybe play offensive tackle or kick inside because maybe Sidy Sow isn't the long-term answer. Maybe it's time to move on from Cole Strange. But either way, I know that we used a lot of our picks in this mock draft on quarterback and wide receiver alongside 1 safety, but I think you do have to take a offensive lineman at some point in this draft. And the Patriots have a lot of cap space, which will obviously dictate where they go in the draft because free agency is before April in the draft. So I guess that's going to probably dictate what New England eventually does in the draft. But I wouldn't hate them going offensive line in free agency and then going position players in the draft.
Yep.
We'll have to see, but maybe they go the other round, do position players in free agency and O-line in the draft.
And look, the big wild card in all this is who's making those decisions. Is it Bill Belichick? Is it a new GM for the first time in forever with a new head coach? Those decisions have to be made first. But either way, the Patriots are going to be picking high, and we're going to be covering it all here on this channel. Grade our Patriots Mock Draft 2.0, A, B, C, D, or F. Only 5 players in this 6th-round mock. With Drake May, Jalen Polk, Rod Moore, Devontae Walker, and Brandon Coleman. But I think some needs being filled here. Let us know what our grade is, and we'll be sure to come back for 3.0 sometime very, very soon. Be sure to subscribe, and let us know if you do or do not want more draft coverage in the chat. If a lot of you guys say yes, we do, and if we do get a lot of new subscribers, that'll be a signal to us to do more draft videos. So it's up to you guys. Appreciate you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.